11 military jobs that sound great. Until you actually do them before you sign that contract and raise your right hand, pause for a second. A lot of people join the military with a very specific dream in mind. They see the commercials, they talk to a recruiter, they imagine adventure and honor. And yes, there are many incredible opportunities in the armed forces. But there's also the other side of the coin, jobs that sound great on paper, but in reality come with brutal hours, little recognition, and sometimes physical or emotional tolls you can't imagine until you're already there. So today, we're going to break down 11 military jobs that seem honorable, exciting, or even glamorous, but often turn out to be some of the toughest, least appreciated, or most stressful positions in uniform. I'm not saying these careers don't have value. In fact, every one of them plays a critical role. What I'm saying is that you need to go in with your eyes wide open. Let's dig in. Let's start with one of the most deceptively appealing jobs, air traffic controller. On the surface, it sounds incredible. You're the person sitting up in the tower, guiding planes and helicopters, keeping the skies safe. Civilian air traffic controllers can make six figures, sometimes high six figures at major airports. So naturally, recruits think that's a great stepping stone into a lucrative career after the military. But here's the reality. This job is brain surgeon level stress without brain surgeon level pay. Every decision you make carries enormous consequences. You're constantly juggling multiple aircraft, weather conditions, and safety protocols. One mistake could risk dozens of lives. That pressure doesn't stop when your shift ends, it lingers, and the lifestyle? Rough. You'll often work overnight shifts, rotating schedules, and long stretches that wreck your sleep cycle. Many controllers struggle with anxiety, burnout, and unfortunately, higher than average rates of depression. Yes, there are moments of pride when you bring in a plane safely during rough weather or prevent an accident. But the day-to-day grind takes a toll. If you're considering this months, understand that it's not the glamorous stepping stone it appears to be. It's demanding, stressful, and not for the faint of heart. Next up, mortuary affairs. Most people don't even realize this is a military job. But it is, and it's one of the most emotionally heavy roles you can imagine. Mortuary affairs specialists handle the remains of fallen service members. Sometimes that means escorting a flag-draped casket home, ensuring dignity and honor for the deceased. That part is solemn, meaningful, and deeply respected. But there's another side that's much harder to stomach. On the battlefield, mortuary affairs personnel are the ones collecting remains after explosions, firefights, or accidents. That can mean piecing together fragments of bodies, identifying service members who were killed in extremely violent ways, and preparing them for transport back home. You cannot unsee those things. You carry them with you. These specialists also sometimes deploy to old battlefields, like Vietnam or Korea, to recover remains decades later. That work is important, even noble, but again, it's emotionally exhausting. If you have the mental toughness to handle it, you'll be providing an invaluable service. But make no mistake, this job will test your psyche in ways most people can't imagine. This one doesn't get talked about much, but it exists: laundry and shower operations. In the Army, it's officially called 9-2S, shower, laundry, and clothing repair specialist. Sounds thrilling, right? Picture this: you're deployed in Afghanistan. Soldiers drop off duffel bags of uniforms that haven't been washed in a week. They reek of sweat, dirt, maybe blood, maybe worse. Your job: wash, repair, and return them. Nobody thanks you for it. If everything comes back clean and folded, it's just expected. But if something gets lost, damaged, or delayed, you'll hear about it loudly. On top of that, you maintain shower facilities, which means cleaning up after hundreds of sweaty troops who just came back from patrols. Clogged drains, broken equipment, hygiene disasters, you inherit it all. Does it serve a purpose? Absolutely. Troops need clean uniforms and working showers. But is it glamorous? Not even close. It's one of those jobs where the only time people notice you is when something goes wrong. Another job that sounds simple but wears thin quickly, Postal Clerk. You basically run the military's version of a post office. Sorting, screening, and distributing mail. Soldiers depend on you for letters from home, packages, and care boxes. Here's the downside: if mail gets delayed, which often happens due to logistics, weather, or customs, you get the blame, even though it's completely out of your control. You'll also deal with regulations, customs forms, and security checks that frustrate people sending or receiving packages. It can feel like thankless work. And honestly, you join the military expecting challenge and excitement. Instead, you're behind a counter stamping envelopes. Not exactly the action-packed career many recruits envision. Now let's talk about crypto-linguists and intelligence analysts. On paper, this job looks awesome. You're analyzing secret communications, breaking codes, or translating foreign languages. It sounds like a spy thriller. But here's the catch: you'll often work in a SCIF, a sensitive compartmented information facility. That's a windowless, heavily secured vault where no personal electronics are allowed. Imagine spending 8 to 12 hours a day in a room with no sunlight, no phone, no internet, no contact with the outside world, except through classified systems. You can't even step outside for a quick scroll on social media. The work can be fascinating, but the environment is isolating and mentally draining. After a while, it feels less like James Bond and more like solitary confinement with fluorescent lighting. This one might surprise some people: infantry. Now, don't get me wrong, infantry is the backbone of the military. If you want to be on the front lines, carrying a rifle, doing the hard work of combat, this is it. There's pride, tradition, and honor in the infantry. But the lifestyle is a grind. When you're not deployed, you're training. That means living in the field for weeks, sleeping in the rain, digging fighting holes, marching long distances, and being constantly wet, dirty, and exhausted. And when you're not in the field, you're often sitting around waiting. There's no office work for infantry when training isn't happening, so you kill time, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days, until leadership gives new orders. It's an endless cycle of extremes. Either you're miserable in the field, or you're bored out of your mind in the barracks. Infantry life can build resilience and camaraderie like nothing else. But if you're expecting non-stop action, prepare for long stretches of monotony and hardship. Military police, or MPS, often get a mixed reputation. They're essential, but they're not exactly beloved. In garrison, MPS spend most of their time doing law enforcement on base. That means guarding gates, conducting traffic stops, responding to domestic incidents, bar fights, or drunk driving calls. It's not glamorous. And unlike civilian cops, MPS don't get the same respect from the people they police, because those people are fellow service members. Nobody enjoys being pulled over by someone in the same uniform. Now, overseas, MPS sometimes get more interesting assignments: convoy security, detainee operations, or personal security details for generals. But back home, expect boredom at the gate and frustration dealing with your fellow troops' bad decisions. Number 8. Cook. Culinary specialist. Feeding an entire unit is no joke. Military cooks work hard, often waking up before dawn to prepare breakfast, then repeating the cycle for lunch and dinner. The hours are brutal, the work is repetitive, and the appreciation is minimal. Soldiers love to complain about food, no matter how decent it is. You'll rarely hear, "Thanks, that was great." More often, you'll hear, "Why does this taste like cardboard?" There is an upside, though. As you gain rank, you can attend advanced culinary schools, cook for generals, or even work at the Pentagon. Some military chefs go on to very successful civilian careers, but at the entry level, expect long shifts, thankless effort, and little recognition. Number 9. Combat engineer. Combat engineers are sold on the idea of building and creating bridges, roads, fortifications, and infrastructure. That part does exist, but in many deployments, engineers end up doing something much more dangerous: route clearance. That means walking or driving ahead of convoys with mine detectors, searching for improvised explosive devices, i.e. DIS. It's high risk, high stress, and very different from the construction image many recruits are given. Yes, you might blow stuff up or build structures, but you might also spend months sweeping roads, praying you don't step on something deadly. It's a job with pride and purpose, but it's not the glamorous Bob the Builder version recruiters sometimes pitch. Number 10. CBRN chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear. CBRN specialists are trained to handle some of the scariest threats imaginable: chemical weapons, biological agents, radiation, and nuclear hazards. In practice, though, most of the time, they just run gas chamber training for new recruits. Over and over again, day to day, it can feel monotonous. And if there ever is a real chemical or biological attack, suddenly you're at the center of a nightmare scenario, so most of the time, you're bored. But if things go bad, you're in extreme danger, not exactly a fun balance. Number 11. Missile operator, security. Finally, we've got the folks who guard or operate America's missile silos. This job is shrouded in secrecy. You'll need a high-level clearance, and you can't talk much about what you do. But here's what's known: the bases are usually in remote locations. Think North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming. Not exactly hotspots of culture or nightlife. The work itself is repetitive, either guarding access points or sitting underground, waiting for an order to do something you hope never happens. Days blur together. It's like living Groundhog Day in a secure facility. The responsibility is enormous, but the day-to-day reality is mind-numbingly dull. Bonus, being the boot. No matter what months you choose, there's one universal truth. If you're the new guy or girl, you're going to be the boot. That means you'll get the least desirable tasks, you'll make the most mistakes, and you'll take the brunt of the jokes. It's not personal, it's tradition. Everyone goes through it. Eventually, you'll gain experience and respect. But at first, expect some rough treatment. Final thoughts: here's the bottom line: no military job is perfect. Every month has upsides and downsides. Some are dangerous, some are stressful, some are mind-numbingly dull. That doesn't mean you shouldn't join or that these jobs aren't valuable. It just means you need to do your research, talk to veterans, ask the questions recruiters won't answer, and think carefully about what you want your daily life to look like, not just the highlight reel. If you've served, drop your months in the comments. Did you love it, hate it? What advice would you give someone considering that path? And if you're thinking about enlisting, share which jobs you're considering. I guarantee veterans will chime in with real-world feedback. At the end of the day, the military can be an incredible career, but only if you go in prepared. Don't just chase the jobs that sound cool. Chase the ones that fit the life you actually want.